A restaurant for change. Jamie Oliver wants to change people's lives, and he is using food to do it. Oliver, a chef, is well known for sharing his secrets of cooking healthy food through his magazine, cookbooks, and television shows. He is also changing lives through his Italian restaurant, 15. 15 started in London, England, as a place to train young adults to work in a kitchen. Oliver's idea was to create a professional kitchen that can help young people get a fresh start and a chance to become professional chefs. Every September, a new group of 18 to 24-year-olds start work at 15. When they start, they are usually not qualified for a restaurant job, but that will change quickly. In the 12 months of training, the student chefs study cooking at college and get hands-on training at the restaurant. Besides learning kitchen skills, they learn the importance of using fresh ingredients and how to create their own recipes. And their education doesn't stop with preparing and serving food. The students also learn how to manage money and deal with difficult customers. Overall, the program encourages them to believe in themselves and enables them to look forward to a future in the restaurant business. The restaurant's name, 15, comes from the number of students the restaurant had when it started in 2002. Today, Oliver has 3 of these restaurants, and a few hundred students have finished the program. Around 90% of the graduates are still working in the food industry. Some own restaurants or work in some of the best kitchens around the world. Others are now starring in their own TV shows. They're all great examples of what young people can do if they're given the opportunity and support.
Let's make blueberry muffins. Muffins are pastries that were first popular in England, Germany, and America in the 1800s. Today, muffins can be both sweet and savory. Most people add fruit and vegetables to add flavor. These muffins are full of juicy blueberries and make a delicious breakfast meal. Here's what you need. 1½ cups all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons baking powder, ½ teaspoon salt, 3/4 cup white sugar, 1/4 cup butter, 1/3 cup milk, 1 large egg, 2 teaspoons vanilla extract, 1 cup fresh blueberries, a muffin tin, an electric mixer, cooking spray. Makes 8 muffins. Step 1. Get the oven ready. Heat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, 200 degrees Celsius, and spray the muffin tin with cooking spray. Step 2. Mix the dry ingredients. In a large bowl, mix the flour, baking powder, salt, and ½ cup sugar together with a fork. When the ingredients are mixed well, make a hole in the center. Step 3. Brown the butter. Melt the butter in a pan over medium heat. When the butter melts, use a spoon to stir it. The butter will start to brown and smell nutty. When this happens, take the butter away from the stove. Step 4. Make the batter. Pour the butter and the milk into the hole you made in the flour. Mix everything together with the electric mixer. Add the egg and keep mixing. Then add the vanilla. Don't mix the batter too much. A few lumps are okay. Add the blueberries and use a spoon to stir. Be careful not to squish the blueberries. Step 5. Get ready to bake. Pour the batter into each section of the muffin tin. Sprinkle the remaining sugar over each muffin. Step 6. Bake it. Bake for about 16 to 20 minutes. The tops of the muffins will be golden brown. Check that they're done by inserting a toothpick into the middle of the muffin. If it comes out with a few quite dry crumbs, they're ready. Let the muffins cool in the tin for a few minutes before serving.
Computer beats champs. In 2011, on the popular American TV quiz show Jeopardy, two champions competed against a brand new opponent. Both Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter had won millions of dollars on Jeopardy. Jennings once won 74 games in a row, the most ever. Then Rutter beat him in a tournament and set a new record for the most money won on Jeopardy. Their new opponent, Watson, had never appeared on the game show and had only played practice games before, in which he often got answers wrong. However, Watson isn't human. He, or rather it, is a machine, a wonder of technology made by researchers at IBM. In the game, Watson used math to decide on an answer. When a question was read out, Watson was immediately given the same question in electronic form. It analyzed the question and searched its memory bank, about the same as 1 million books of information, for possible answers. It then narrowed the options down to one answer. If Watson felt around 75% confident about the answer, it would answer the question. The way Watson thinks is very different from the way humans think. People often make decisions by listening to their emotions and feelings, even if they are unsure of the answer. As a computer, Watson couldn't do this. People also watch and listen to those around them. Watson was not able to listen to the wrong answers given by his competitors. In one question, Jennings answered the question incorrectly, and Watson later answered with the same wrong answer. Watson also made silly mistakes. In a question in the category U.S. cities, Watson incorrectly answered Toronto, even though the city of Toronto is in Canada. An IBM researcher said Watson got confused because it saw in its memory bank that the U.S. is often called America. Toronto is considered a North American city, so that was the answer that Watson gave. Still, Watson defeated his human opponents somewhat easily and received the $1 million prize. The other players also won money for participating in the special game. Everyone left the game happy, as each player was earning money for a different charity.
Talk about it. The most useful inventions.
The other day, my friends and I had a discussion about the most useful invention of all time. There were many good ideas: the train, the car, and the airplane. They're all useful, but they were not my choices. For an everyday, useful invention, I vote for the air conditioner. I live in Taipei, and during the summer the temperature can be 35 degrees Celsius or higher. It's so hot. I'm not joking when I say that without an air conditioner, people here couldn't work or study. The weather is so hot that it can make you feel unwell if you don't drink enough water and get enough rest. What do you guys think is the most useful invention of all time?
Posted by Cindy Wu on Saturday, April 13.
I don't know if I agree with you, Cindy. For me, the most useful invention of all time is surely the internet. We can now reach people and do business faster. I own a clothing store in Mexico City, and there's a lot of competition. I also have a website. Now, people from all over the world can buy my clothing. With emails, I can keep in touch with friends and family in Mexico and around the world. It's faster than usual mail, and it's cheaper than using the phone.
Posted by Jorge on Sunday, April 14.
Jorge, I also think that the internet is useful. But, in my opinion, there is an invention that is even more important, and that's electricity. Of course, this isn't a man-made invention, but without people like Benjamin Franklin and Alessandro Volta, we wouldn't have learned how to use it. And without electricity, many of the world's most important modern inventions would not work.
Posted by Kazuo on Monday, April 15.
Want to study abroad? Choose Travelingua. Every year, thousands of students choose to study abroad for the summer, whether it's for 6 months, a year, or even longer. Many people find the experience of studying abroad very exciting, but also very scary. Let Travelingua give you some advice. Why do it? Living in another country will help you learn a language and learn about another culture. You will see the world in a new way and learn more about yourself. Studying abroad is also excellent training for the working world. Many companies want employees who speak a second language or who have experience living or working in another country. Making the right choice. To choose the right country or school, ask yourself these questions. For how long do I want to study abroad? Do I want to live with a host family, with roommates, or alone? How much can I afford to pay? If you aren't sure how to answer these questions, our experienced staff can help. Getting ready to go. Based on our experience, it's best to get your passport and visa early. Before you go, learn as much of the language as you can and read about the customs of your host country. Also, talk with people who have experience studying abroad. And call the school to make sure someone can meet you when you get there. Make sure to bring some local money and a credit card. Once you are there, be curious and open to meeting new people and having new experiences. Don't expect to always be comfortable. After the first few weeks, it's usual to feel a little homesick. You'll miss your family and friends. Remember that it takes time to get used to a new place with new customs. Talk to your new friends and write about your feelings. Try to keep in touch with the people back home. Travelingua helps you get started on your journey by doing all this and more. Choose us as your travel partner, and we'll be sure to get you where you want to go.
My Travel Journal, September 13. Hi, Journal. It's me, Maria. I arrived in New York City 2 weeks ago. I am writing this journal for one of my classes. My teacher says it is a good way for me to practice writing in English and to write about my experiences here in the United States. So far, I like New York and my school. I have 3 classes a day. Most of my classmates come from Japan, Korea, Poland, Germany, and Brazil. There aren't many Italian students, so I have to use English most of the time. I am learning a lot. I am living in student housing, and I have my own comfortable room. October 20. My English is hopeless. I was on the bus this morning, and a man spoke to me, but I hardly understood him. I was so embarrassed. Why is my English improving so slowly? I want to make lots of American friends, but this isn't happening so easily. I feel shy, and it is hard for me to talk to people, even my classmates. I like them, but sometimes I can't understand them very well. I'm feeling homesick. I miss my friends and family. October 27. I went to a school party last Friday, and it was awesome. I talked with a Japanese man named Kenji and a Polish woman named Anna. We talked about our country's customs and our experiences in the States so far. We are going to walk around the city together this weekend. Also, Kenji wants me to write for the student newspaper here at school. Maybe things are getting better.
A student budget. College is an exciting time to learn and to make friends that will last a lifetime. Many students do not like to worry about money and would rather not think about it. However, it doesn't matter whether a student's parents pay for everything or whether the student works part-time to help pay for his or her education. All students can get into money trouble if they're not careful. The cost of a college education can be high. In English-speaking countries, the average cost per student per year can be well over $15,000 US. Students must also pay for books, paper, pens, etc. These can cost $500 to $1,000 per year. Students must also pay thousands more per year for room and board. Add money for clothes, travel, and other personal expenses, and the average cost of 1 year at university can be $20,000 to $30,000 or more. So, students need to spend their money carefully. At most universities, counselors can give students advice on how to budget their money. This is what they suggest. At the start of a school semester, write down your income. For example, money you will get from your family or from a part-time job. Then, list all of your expenses. Put your expenses into 2 groups, those that change, food, phone, books, travel, and those that will stay the same, tuition, room and board. Add together all of your expenses. Are they more than your income? Will you need to borrow from family or friends? Or will you need to get more money by doing part-time work? Often, students find it is easier to plan out their own budget and save their own money, rather than trying to borrow from others. As you can see, there's more to learn at college than just what's taught in the classroom. My money. In this week's Students Around the World, Min Young Kim interviews an American university student, Lisa Conroy. They talk about living on a student budget.
Thanks for talking with me today, Lisa. Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm 21 and I'm a junior at a university in Chicago.
How are you paying for your college education?
My expenses for every semester are almost $15,000. At the start of each semester, I get $2,000 from my college scholarship. My parents pay the rest of the $10,000 tuition, and they give me $2,000 for personal expenses. I have to pay the remaining $3,000 myself.
How do you do that?
I have a part-time job as a waitress. I work 3 nights a week, and I usually earn about $400 a week. In a good week, I can make $600, but in a bad week, it can be less than $300.
How do you spend that money?
It helps to pay for my rent and meals at college. It also pays for things like my cell phone, books, transportation, and clothes.
You don't have much money for fun, do you?
That's true. My mother advised me to stick to my budget carefully so I don't have to borrow. I don't like to owe money. And I don't want to pay the bank any interest. I hardly ever go to the movies. My roommates and I usually rent movies and split the cost. And I don't go to restaurants very often. My roommates and I usually cook our own food, so it's cheaper to eat.
How else do you save money?
I try to walk or ride my bicycle to college. Oh, and I buy a lot of my clothes at secondhand stores. You can find some very cheap, nice clothes in those stores. I also try to borrow books and magazines from the library, rather than buying them on my own. My roommates and I are also very careful to save water and electricity, so we don't have to pay a lot for those things. Cell phone etiquette. Dear Sunday Globe, I am writing to you about your article in last Sunday's newspaper, Cell Phones Make Life Easier. You did an excellent job explaining the good points of cell phones. They're convenient, we feel safer always being able to call someone, and they are very helpful in business. On the other hand, you didn't talk about their bad points at all. I hope you'll let me give your readers some advice on cell phone etiquette. The first point I'd like to address is when not to use your phone. It's polite to switch off your phone or turn off the sound when you're in class or in a meeting. If you get an important call, you should ask for permission to leave the room, and then don't talk for too long. Furthermore, for conversations that need more time, it is best to ask the person to call back at a more convenient time. Cell phones can also cause you to neglect the people you are with. I find it really annoying when my friends constantly check their messages on their phone. In fact, I want to tell them to turn off the cell phone and enjoy my company. Another point that needs to be made has to do with personal space. I think it is very impolite to make calls in small spaces or crowded rooms. This makes others uncomfortable and forces them to listen to your personal conversations. Additionally, it disturbs other face-to-face conversations. That's why I never use my cell phone within a few meters of other people, except in emergencies. Lastly, I would like readers to pay attention to the dangers of using your phone while doing something else. For instance, driving and texting is a bad combination. Likewise, using your phone or texting when walking can make you careless. You don't want to get hit by a car. Pay attention to where you're going. Sincerely, Amber Jala.
Smartphone apps for travelers. Traveling soon? Smartphone apps make traveling easier than ever. Unfortunately, with thousands of new travel-related apps to choose from each month, it can take a long time to figure out which applications are truly helpful. Here are 3 apps that will definitely make your next trip abroad a little easier. Talk to me. Say au revoir to language phrase books after downloading the Talk to Me smartphone app. This is a great tool for anyone visiting a foreign country. It works like a translator in your pocket. When you speak into the phone in English, it translates what you are saying into the language you select. You can choose between English, Chinese, French, Spanish, German, and Italian. This app is useful for the everyday needs of tourists and business travelers. It's also great for frequent travelers and language learners. TripIt. Are you always looking for your travel information when it's time to check in for your flight? TripIt combines all of your travel confirmation documents, such as hotel room bookings, into one travel itinerary. Users send their travel-related emails to TripIt, and the app turns it into an easy-to-use itinerary with a calendar. TripIt also prepares maps and weather information for the places on your itinerary. City Seeker. Imagine being able to find whatever you need no matter where you are. A map easily becomes outdated, and a guidebook typically helps you only in places the average tourist goes. What you need on your trip is an app that will tell you where the locals go. Want to find a great sushi place in Singapore? Morning coffee in Barcelona? A tailor in Mexico City? The City Seeker app helps you find these places. It uses information created by Singaporeans, Spanish, Mexicans, and people from other popular tourist cities to give advice on restaurants, gas stations, shops, landmarks, and more.
The Olympic Flame. Every 4 years, the Summer Olympic Games kick off with an elaborate opening ceremony that welcomes athletes from every competing nation. However, preparations and celebrations for the Olympic Games start long before the opening ceremony. The true beginning of the Olympic celebration is the lighting of the Olympic torch and the relay that carries the flame to the host city. The Olympic torch is lit at a ceremony in Olympia, Greece, where the ancient games were held. One requirement for the Olympic flame is that it must be created using only sunlight and a mirror. The flame is lit months before the games, and the first runner begins the great relay among the ruins of an ancient Olympic stadium. The first modern Olympic torch relay took place in Berlin in the summer of 1936. At the beginning, runners were mainly selected from the Olympic athletes, but later, regular citizens, including children, old people, and people with disabilities, began to participate as well. Carrying the torch is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and a great honor. Traditionally, the torch is carried on foot. However, sometimes other kinds of transport are needed. When the torch must go overseas, it is sent on a private plane. The torch has also been carried underwater. For the Sydney Summer Games in 2000, a diver swam with the torch. At the end of the relay, the flame is used to light a giant pot. The light, a symbol of the Olympic spirit, burns throughout the Games.
Unusual Olympic sports. For many people, the Olympic Games consist of popular sports like swimming, running, or ice skating. Here are 3 unusual Olympic events and 3 athletes who fell in love with them.
Curling. Curling is a sport that is played on ice. 2 teams of 4 players each slide 8 stones along the ice to a colored circle called the house. The object of the game is to place a stone closest to the center of the house. I started curling very young. Canadian Olympic curler Sammy McCann told us, "My father managed a hotel with an ice rink. As soon as the people left the ice, my friends and I would get right on and start curling."
Trampoline. Kids have been jumping on trampolines for almost 100 years, but it was only at the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney that trampoline became an official Olympic sport. In Olympic competitions, each trampoline gymnast is judged on 10 different skills. A gymnast can score well by showing that they can control their bodies while jumping high and twisting and flipping smoothly in the air. I love the sport. I've been doing it since I was 5 years old, said Jennifer Perilla, American trampoline gymnast. After Jennifer competed in the 2000 Olympics as the only American trampoline gymnast, she got a tattoo of a butterfly to remind her of her new beginnings as an Olympian.
Skeleton. The sport of skeleton racing first became an Olympic sport in 1928. Skeleton racers slide down an icy course at very high speed on a simple sled. The sled is called a skeleton because early sleds looked like human skeletons. I didn't start skeleton until I was 30, said American skeleton racer Zach Gale. While driving, my girlfriend and I took a wrong turn at Lake Placid, New York. That's where the 1980 Winter Olympics took place. They were offering skeleton classes that afternoon. My girlfriend said, "Why don't we give it a try?" It was fun. I fell in love with it.
The world's oldest universities. Many universities around the world are proud to have long histories and strong traditions. However, very few universities can claim to be among the oldest in the world. Nalanda University in Bihar, India, was established around 600 BC. It was most likely the world's first university. In the past, scholars came from Europe, China, and all over India to learn about science, medicine, the Buddhist religion, and other subjects. The university is in ruins now, but at one time it was an impressive school with temples, classrooms, libraries, and dormitories. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Fez, Morocco, is the oldest surviving university in the world. It was probably founded in 859 and became a famous place to study natural sciences. In 1957, after more than 1,000 years as a university, Al-Qarawiyyin added mathematics, physics, chemistry, and various foreign languages to its traditional list of subjects for study. The first university in Europe is definitely the University of Bologna in Italy. It was one of the few universities in Europe that were not influenced by religion. Professors were forbidden from teaching outside the university, and so students came from all over Europe to study with its famous teachers. Since opening in 1088, the University of Bologna has never closed its doors, despite the many wars in Europe. With the success of the University of Bologna, other universities opened across Europe. They were started by kings, religious groups, and former professors. Today, there are so many universities that students don't need to go far to study. They are sure to find one close to home.
Modern engineering wonders. Great Engineering has selected 5 wonders of 21st century engineering for our Excellence Prize. Now, we're asking you to vote for one and tell us why. Falkirk Wheel, Falkirk, Scotland, 2001. The Falkirk Wheel is the world's only rotating boat lift. Its steel arms each hold a water-filled tank into which boats can sail. As the wheel rotates, so do the arms, raising and lowering the boats a distance of 25 meters. The wheel is very energy efficient, using about 2 kilowatt hours to make a full rotation. That's about the same amount of energy needed to power a microwave for 3 minutes. Millau Viaduct, Millau, France, 2005. The 2.46-kilometer-long Millau Viaduct over the River Tam in the south of France is 270 meters high, the highest bridge in the world. It was built in just 3 years. It is an amazing bridge that adds to the natural beauty of the river valley. Langlead Pipeline, the North Sea, 2007. This pipeline under the ocean carries natural gas across the 1,200 kilometers of rocky seabed from Norway to Britain. It is the longest pipeline of its kind, and it helps supply 20% of Britain's gas. Three Gorges Dam, Yichang, China, 2008. Three Gorges Dam is the largest dam for electric power in the world. Its 1.6-kilometer-long wall across the Yangtze River rises 183 meters above the valley floor. It can hold back 39 million cubic meters of water. Venice Tide Barrier, Venice, Italy, estimated 2014. In 1966, the city of Venice was flooded in 2 meters of ocean water. To prevent this from happening again, the Italian government is building 78 walls, each about 600 square meters. When the water level of the Adriatic Sea reaches a dangerous level and threatens to flood the city, the walls will rise to protect it.
Which English will we speak? English is called an international language, but there are actually quite a few varieties of English that exist around the world. English originated in England, but soon English spread to other countries, and different varieties of English began to exist. Today, the countries in which English is spoken can be divided into 3 groups. The first group is made of those countries where English is the primary language. These are countries like England, Canada, the United States, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand. There are more than 380 million native speakers of English in these countries alone. There is a second group of countries that have their own varieties of English. Their histories have been directly influenced by one of the early English-speaking societies. They use English in various important ways within their own government and everyday life. India, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Kenya are examples of this group. The total number of speakers in this group is in the hundreds of millions. In a third group of countries, English is widely used as a foreign language. However, citizens use their native language within their own government and in everyday life. Some countries in this group are China, Russia, Japan, Korea, Brazil, Indonesia, and many Western European countries. Some people calculate the number of speakers in this group to be as many as 1 billion, and it is growing fast. This changing situation raises many questions. Will another language replace English as the international language? If not, will people continue to use the English of countries such as England or the United States as models? Will new varieties of English develop in countries such as China or Brazil? Or, in the future, will a new international variety of English develop that doesn't belong to any one country, but to an entire area, like Asia or Europe?
Sign language. Because deaf people cannot hear, they have special ways of communicating. For example, they can learn to understand what someone is saying by looking at the mouth of the speaker. This is called lip reading. Also, speaking is very difficult for the deaf because they cannot hear their own voices. However, it is possible with special training. According to many deaf people all around the world, the most practical and popular way of communicating is with sign language. In many ways, sign language is similar to spoken language. The words of sign language are made with signs, which are formed with movements of the hands, face, and body. As with words, each sign has a different meaning and can be combined to form sentences. Signed languages also have their own grammar. The alphabet of sign language is special hand signs that stand for letters. They make spelling possible. The signs combine to form a rich language that can express the same thoughts, feelings, and ideas as any spoken language. And just as people from different countries speak different languages, most countries have their own variety of sign language. In addition to knowing sign language, it is also helpful to know something about how deaf people communicate. Since they rely so much on actions, deaf people are generally not very formal when they talk, and may touch your arm or shoulder a lot to make sure you know what they're saying. It is not seen as rude among deaf people to lightly touch someone you do not know to get their attention. It's also okay to wave your hands or hit the table or floor. Also, lots of eye contact is necessary. There are many ways to learn a few signs. Community colleges often teach introductory classes. For self-learners, bookstores and libraries have books for learning sign language. There are also instructional videos on the internet, with actors demonstrating signs and performing interesting stories and conversations for you to see. With practice, you'll soon get the hang of this useful method of communicating.
How do you celebrate? New Year's Day. New Year is one of the most popular festivals in the world, even though it is celebrated at different times and in different ways. In many Western countries, people get together with family and friends on December 31st to eat, drink, and dance as they wait for January 1st. Some of the biggest parties are held on New Year's Eve. In many cities, crowds gather in the center of town to welcome the new year at midnight with fireworks. For many Asian countries, like China, Taiwan, and Vietnam, the new year is based on a lunar calendar. The date changes from year to year, but usually falls between January 21st and February 21st. It is traditionally seen as a time for family reunions, with people traveling across the country and from overseas. Many people wear red clothes, as it is thought to be a lucky color. They also give lucky money in red envelopes to friends and family, and set off firecrackers to scare away bad luck. What's common among these celebrations is the meaning of the new year. It is a time to say goodbye to the past and to think about new beginnings. For example, in Japan, people organize Bonenkai parties, year-forgetting parties, which are dedicated to leaving the old year's worries and troubles behind. In many countries, people make New Year's resolutions, promises to themselves to make changes in their lives over the coming year, such as to lose weight, stop smoking, or learn a new skill. Carnival. In late February or early March, some countries celebrate a special festival called Carnival. Carnival is thought to have originated in Italy or Greece and was held just before Lent, the 40-day period before Easter. People dressed in costumes, wore colorful masks, ate, drank, and danced all night. This tradition spread to France, Spain, Portugal, and later to Brazil and the United States. Now, two of the biggest Carnival celebrations take place in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil and New Orleans in the United States. There are grand parades where people wear flashy costumes and dance and sing in the streets. In New Orleans, Carnival is known as Mardi Gras. Many roads and shops are shut down for the celebrations, which can last for up to 3 weeks. Millions of visitors travel from around the world to join the party, and many more watch the event on television.
Edinburgh Festival Journal, September 1. I'm so excited. My roommate Christopher and I are on our flight to Edinburgh, Scotland, for the Edinburgh International Festival. It's the biggest arts festival in the world and combines many separate festivals happening at the same time. I'm especially excited to see lots of indie art and films. There's so much to do, and we only have 3 days. September 2. Christopher and I arrived at our hotel in Edinburgh last night. After checking in, we had dinner and explored the city streets. It was really fascinating, but we went to bed soon after because we were so tired. Today, we went to King's Theatre to watch some short plays that are part of the Fringe Festival. People here call it the Fringe, and it has an awesome variety of shows by all sorts of performing arts groups. A parade of actors greeted us as we walked down the street. They were waving colorful flags, one for each of the theater companies performing at the festival. It was a great way for us to start our festival experience. Christopher wants to hear some bands at the Jazz and Blues Festival, and we hope to see a good film tonight. September 3. I saw an awesome comedian today. He was so funny that I couldn't stop laughing. I wish we had these kind of events in my hometown. Christopher and I spent the afternoon walking along the river. There were painters on either side, working and displaying all kinds of art. Later, we went to the Foodies Festival for dinner and tried local Scottish foods. Most of it was delicious, although there were a few foods we didn't dare try, like haggis. September 4. Today is the final day of the International Festival, but some of the smaller festivals will go on for a few more days. The plan is to watch some short plays in the amphitheater in the park after lunch. Then, later tonight, we'll attend the closing ceremonies in the city center and watch the fireworks. I can't believe the festival is almost over. The age of adulthood. In the United States, 16, 18, and 21 are significant ages in a person's life. A person can do new things at each age to show that he or she is no longer a child. These are all part of the transition to adulthood. After turning 16 in the United States, a person can be employed, get a driver's license, and leave home. Many high school students learn to drive and get part-time jobs soon after celebrating their 16th birthday. At 18, people in the United States can vote in government elections and join the military, but they are prohibited from going into nightclubs, buying alcohol like beer or wine, or gambling until they are 21. In many Latin American countries, a young woman's 15th birthday is important. At this age, she is no longer considered to be a girl, but a woman. To mark this special day, families with 15-year-old daughters have a celebration called a quinceañera. The day begins with the young woman and her family going to church. Later, there is a party to which many guests are invited. In Japan, boys and girls are considered to be adults at the age of 20. At the second Monday in January is a national holiday called Coming of Age Day. On this day, 20-year-olds celebrate by first going to a shrine with their families. Later, they listen to speeches given by city and school leaders. After that, many celebrate with family and friends late into the night. In many countries, celebrations do not stop at adulthood. People like to celebrate what they consider to be important ages, such as their 50th or 60th birthdays, or significant events such as the birth of their first child or their retirement.
Firsts in life. In this month's University Express, Lynn Joe interviews students around the world about important firsts in their lives. Read their answers to the question, what was an important first in life for you?
For me, an important first was getting my driver's license. I got it the moment I turned 18. Being able to drive my father's car that summer gave me freedom and made me feel like an adult. For example, I'm from Madrid, and my girlfriend is from a suburb about 30 kilometers away. Driving made it easy for me to see her more frequently. Also, I was able to take weekend trips with friends to other cities. I really like being independent.
I went on my first date soon after my 16th birthday. It was with my best friend's brother. He invited me to a movie, but we didn't talk much. We were both very shy. 2 weeks later, I went to a high school dance with him, and we had a great time. After that, we spent most of the summer together. But then he and his family migrated to France.
An important first for me was traveling from Korea to Europe. When I was 18, I spent the summer with my cousin backpacking through Europe. It was my first time out of Korea, so I was nervous and reluctant to talk to people. Luckily, I overcame my fears and gradually started to open up. I learned to be more independent. I made friends with other travelers at the hostels we stayed at, and I keep in touch with many of them even now.
Are you an Ophiuchus? Thousands of years ago, the ancient people of Babylon and Egypt studied the stars in the sky. From their research, they came up with the zodiac, a map of the sun, moon, stars, and planets. It was first used to keep track of time. These ancient astrologers studied the constellations and their positions in the sky. They wanted to know when each constellation was closest to the sun. They used this information to determine where each group of stars belongs in the zodiac. The word zodiac actually means circle of little animals in Latin and refers to how the constellations are shaped. Today, some people believe that the zodiac can be used to describe a person's personality. Some also believe that by studying the zodiac, they can predict what will happen in the future. According to these beliefs, a person's zodiac sign is connected to his or her birth date. The zodiac has remained the same for over 1,000 years. It is broken up into 12 equal parts, each associated with a star sign. However, some astrologers are suggesting a change. They think a 13th sign should be added to the zodiac calendar. This is because the way the Earth rotates has changed slightly over the centuries, which has also changed its path around the sun. This possible 13th sign is a constellation called Ophiuchus, which means holder of the snake. Ophiuchus is close to the sun from November 29th to December 17th. If the dates of the other 12 signs were adjusted to make Ophiuchus a sign, many people would have a different star sign. As this new sign falls between Scorpio and Sagittarius, some people with those star signs would have to switch to being Ophiuchus, and this would have an effect on dates of the other star signs as well. This would add a whole new answer to the question, what's your sign?
Can animals predict earthquakes?
Dear Scientist Sam, I noticed my dog acting very nervous only a few minutes before a recent earthquake shook the house. Is it possible that my dog knew the earthquake was going to happen? Janet.
Well, Janet, people have believed for many centuries that animals can predict earthquakes. In fact, we can look back to records from the ancient Greeks. They noticed that animals acted oddly in the hours before earthquakes. Even now, people talk about dogs that won't stop barking and cats that won't come out of hiding before an earthquake. Furthermore, strange behavior like this before earthquakes isn't limited to pets. People have also reported seeing chickens stop laying eggs, bees leaving their homes, and big groups of fish dying mysteriously in the hours before a natural disaster hits. It's hard to answer your question, since not all seismologists or animal experts agree that animals can predict earthquakes. Those that disagree claim that we should take into account other things that affect animal behavior, such as hunger. On the other hand, many people who believe that animals can predict earthquakes often have records of very strange animal behavior right before the ground shakes. To them, this is evidence that animals can indeed predict earthquakes. In short, the truth is that we aren't sure. Animals might be able to sense earthquakes before they happen, but there is no solid evidence that they can. However, one thing that most seismologists can agree on is that more research is needed. Animals may be the key to predicting earthquakes before they happen, and could help save many lives.
A Japanese folktale. Once upon a time, in a Japanese mountain inn, there was a greedy innkeeper who was always thinking about money. One day, a rich man stopped at the inn. The innkeeper looked at the guest's fat money belt and thought, "Oh, if only all that money could be mine." The rich man requested the most luxurious room at the inn. Then, he went up to his room to dress for dinner. Now, all around the inn, there grew delicate Japanese ginger plants. In Japan, there is a saying that eating too many ginger buds makes you stupid and forgetful. This gave the innkeeper an idea. "This evening for dinner, I'll serve ginger bud tempura," she thought. "Then, when the rich man leaves in the morning, he'll be forgetful and leave his money belt behind." She ran into the kitchen and started cooking up the most delicious ginger bud tempura she had ever made. Later that evening, the rich man came down the stairs and requested dinner. The innkeeper could hardly contain her delight as she served him dish after dish of ginger buds. "Delicious!" declared the rich man loudly. After he finished his dinner, he went to bed happy, full of ginger buds. The next morning, the innkeeper said goodbye to the rich man. As soon as he was out of sight, she raced up to his room. She looked all over the room for the money belt, but she couldn't find it. Suddenly, she noticed a piece of paper on the floor. It was the rich man's bill. He had forgotten to pay it. She ran after him, down the stairs, out the front door, and up the road until she was out of breath. but the rich man was already far, far away.
Internet hoaxes. The Internet is a fast and convenient way of sending and obtaining information, but it's also a very easy way to spread misinformation. And new hoaxes pop up almost every day about anything from shocking celebrity deaths to mystery objects in foods. Here are 3 examples of Internet hoaxes. Pay what you weigh. On April 1st, 2011, New Zealand Air began advertising a one-day fare sale, Pay What You Weigh. The airline's website offered visitors a chance to pay a dollar amount that was equal to their weight in kilograms. The idea was more weight equals more fuel equals more cost, and many people believed it. The promotion brought thousands of visitors to the company's website and became a popular news story. In the end, though, the promotion turned out to be an April Fool's joke. Croc on the loose. While the streets of New Orleans were still flooded after a terrible hurricane, a frightening email was sent around the Internet. It included a photograph of an immense crocodile over 5 meters long. According to the message, it had been swimming around the flooded city, eating people. It was later discovered that the photographs of the crocodile were of one that was caught in the Congo years before. Earn money through emails. The following email hoax fooled many people. The sender claims that a large company will pay you to send their email to as many people as possible. For every person that you send the email to, the company promises that you will receive $5. For every person that person sends it to, you'll get $3. And for every third person those people send it to, you will be paid $1. To make the lie even more believable, the sender says that at first he thought it was a hoax, but the company soon sent him $800.